In this Figma Smart Animate tutorial, you will learn how to create this advanced animation in a few simple steps. We'll cover things like sequencing animations with delays, the importance of fine-tuning your animation timings, how to use masks in animations, and how to create animated carousels. And I highly recommend that you watch till the end to really grasp it all. Now, let's waste no more time and get straight into it. Okay, so before we move into the actual tutorial stuff, I would suggest that you look at my tutorial on Smart Animate, because that will be a very important base for understanding advanced Smart Animate, of course. So check that out. And if you want to follow along, you have the Figma file in the description below. So what we will be creating today is this animation here. Let's take a look again. You saw it in the beginning, but let's take a look. Boom. And then we can use the carousel here in the end. So that's what we'll be creating step by step. Let's take the first 2 frames. Let's play them. And here we can see that we don't have a lot going on. We have some text revealing, we have some images revealing, but they're revealing in a sequence. And we have this little progress bar in the bottom left. That is all that happens in this part of the animation. So we have something going from 0 to 100% opacity, and then some positional changes. Here we have the stuff we're gonna use in the frame. So we have the images, we have the progress bar, and we have the numbers. Now, before I create the frame and show the animation, I just want to show you that these images are just frames with the same image within them. So you can see frames with this same image that together form this full image. So if we click it, you can see that we have click content checked. If we uncheck it, it gives us the whole image. But this thing is working like a mask, and that makes it possible for us to make this sequenced reveal of the images. Anyways, let's create a frame. Take the iPhone 13 Pro, because that's what I've used. Call it frame 1, give it this background color. Then I'll just take these things we have here, drag them inside, give them 100% in opacity for now, just so that we see what we're doing. And give me the progress bar, put it here so that we can see that as well. Now, what I want to do here, in the first frame, these things aren't seen, right? So this is gonna go outside of the frame. Outside, I'll give it an opacity of 0% again. And then this one is also gonna be outside, 0% opacity. And the number, if we check the animation again, it just barely moves. It's like a super slight movement. So I'll just center it in the frame and then bump it down just 1 notch. Give it 0% in opacity. Then we'll duplicate the frame, call it frame number 2. Take this back, bump it up again. Take these, give them 0 or 100% in opacity. Align them to the bottom like that. So let's play this. Let's add a flow starting point. Let's add an interaction after delay, because this whole thing is just kind of a loading animation, right? So we don't have any interactions going on. You don't click anything, you don't drag anything or hover. This is just based on timing and delay. So after delay, and it's going to be 1 millisecond, so it's going to occur immediately, we're going to have an animation. And what I do here is I go back to the first one, the real one that I created, and I cheat a bit because I use these timings that I already created, because this is where like the majority of the animation work goes. Fine-tuning the timings and the curves of your animations. That's like, yeah, that's most of the work. So I'll take this, copy it, go down here, paste it in here, and there we have it. So let's play this and see. Okay, it looks the same. Cool. Let's move forward. next one. I'll copy this frame, call it frame number 3. We can see here that if we play it, we have something going on here. So we have numbers like scrolling through to the bottom. So we'll go from 0 or 1% to 99%. Then we have this progress bar going from being just tiny to going all the way to the right. And we have these images kind of closing like curtains. So what's happening is we're masking the images. So we're reducing the width of the frames the images are within. Then we're expanding this progress bar and we're changing the position of the numbers within this mask. And you're gonna see how we do that in just a moment. So if I drag this out here, you can see that we have a frame with an auto layout within it. And by the way, if you wanna learn how to use auto layout efficiently, I have a video on that, so check that out. Now, if I go to the encapsulating frame again, numbers, and I click clip content, we're gonna see all the numbers. But we don't want 0, 1% to be the thing showing now, right? We want 99% to be the thing showing. So if we go back to the auto layout here, and instead of having it to be aligned to the bottom, we click align to top, then 99% is gonna be in the frame. So if we clip content again, that's what we see. So I'll go back to this one, go to the auto layout, and align it to the top. So that's one thing. What else? Then we had the masked thing for the images. So I'm just gonna target those, go to width, and set them to 1 pixel, like that. This thing, the progress bar, is gonna go from 2 pixels to 390 because that's the width of the frame. And I think that's all. So let's click here, go prototype. After delay, and once again, let's go up here and steal. Seems to make sense. All right, let's play it. Boom, boom. It works. Cool. Let's move on to the next one. Frame number 4. And let's see how this looks. Okay, so here we have a number coming in. So we have 100%, and it feels like it comes from the right, it kind of slides in. And 99% disappears down. These images that we masked fade out, and we have this linear thing just appearing, like taking up the whole screen. So a linear gradient going to the top. If we look at what happens, we have the opacities, like we said, going from 100 to 0. That's the image frames. We have the expanding thing, which is actually the progress bar, because the progress bar is what is doing this. That thing is the progress bar growing in size and covering the whole frame. And then it changes color. So it goes from this red color to this linear gradient instead. Then we also add some new items that we're going to use for the next sequence, so the next part of the animation. If we want to use Smart Animate, we need to have the same objects in both of the frames that we're going to animate. So that's why we're adding these things. So first off, a background we're going to add here. This image that we're going to see in this one is added here already. So I'll copy that, drag it to the outside, like that. And we have, what else? We have the logo and the game text also will be appearing here. So let's add them to the frame. Bump up their opacity so that we can see them now, and I'll bump them down again. And now we're gonna fade these out. So they're gonna go to 0 opacity. This thing, like I said, is gonna expand. So I expand the frame, but this thing I want to, it should stay in the bottom, and it's gonna go upwards like that. We're gonna change the background color to this linear gradient, remove the red. And then we had the 100% thing. Now, if we look at this auto layout, you can see that we have 100% within this. If we look at this one, if we go to the numbers, you can see that we don't have that one. So we need to add that to our frame. So I just copied it, so I'll paste it in here, put it in the top, and I'll expand this frame a bit so that it doesn't get cut off, like that. Then I'll center it, which is the movement we're seeing. So when it slides from the right to the middle, and since we bumped it down 99%, that's how it kind of bounces and goes down in the animation as well. So if we connect these, prototype, connect, after delay, 1 millisecond, let's go back and steal 1 millisecond, 1000, animation that I copy. All right, let's play it again. Yeah, it works the same way. All right, so let's move over to the next step of the animation. So frame number 5, let's watch this animation. Boom, so we have the Stranger Things logo coming from the top, the game coming from the bottom, just a slight movement. We have the image kind of masking in, and we have this linear gradient going to the right. First of all, the background. So this background is gonna mask in, like that. So we have that mask, what happens? Then we have the logo appearing. Boom, this is gonna come down like that. Then we have the game text appearing as well. It's gonna slide up. And let's make sure these are centered like that. So then we have to center them here as well. Let's play it and see what it looks like. Create an interaction after delay. Steal this as usual. 200 and 800 now, and a different animation. So 200 and 800 and a different animation. Now let's play flow 1 and see what it looks like. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so it masks in, not exactly in the way that it masks in this one, but I still think it looks good. This is a bit of a different look, but I think I kind of like this. Boom, ding, boom. Yeah, let's go for that one. Maybe we want to just move this image a bit as well, so she's centered, like that. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, that looks cool. Let's move over to number 6. Here we go, let's have a watch. Here we just have the image increasing in size and a blur effect. Increasing in size, expanding, a blur effect, but also some new items. So we're gonna add the carousel and the game settings and credits buttons to this frame because they're gonna be used in the next one for the next animation. So let's grab these, like that, put them in here. These things are gonna be centered, like that, 0 opacity. This one is gonna be within the frame, but it's gonna be outside for now. And yeah, so we have the image expanding. So I'll grab the image and I'll expand it. Then I'll center it again, like that, maybe. Then I'll take the background, so the container encapsulating this mask group, and add a blur to that one. Because if I add a blur to the image itself, it could be bugging out and be looking wonky. So we want to keep it like this. Maybe a blur of 40. Then we have some opacity going on as well. So let's put some opacity here. So maybe 50%. And that reminds us we need to put some opacity on our numbers as well. They're not going to be seen. Now that looks quite similar. Let's add an interaction. After delay, let's go back and steal this 200, 1000, and then that kind of animation. 200 in delay, 1000 here, and that animation. Let's go back here and play the flow, see what it looks like. Boom. Okay, so let's duplicate the frame again. Boom, frame number 7. And let's look at this one. So not a lot of things happening here. We have the carousel sliding into view. We have the game buttons sliding upwards and going from 0 opacity to 100. This is also going from 0 opacity to 100, but it's also rotating. So the first carousel is rotated and then it comes in and it goes into like kind of a flat place. But that's it for this one. So let's see if we take this frame and we find our carousel up here. We move that in, give it 100% in opacity, tilt it back, put it in the center like that. Take our game settings here. Maybe we'll have to move this up just slightly. These move up as well. Maybe something like that. And we go to the prototyping settings, add an interaction between these. Steal as usual. So 600 and just 1 millisecond in delay. 1 millisecond, 600, and this animation. Now let's play it again and see what it looks like. Boom, 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 boom. All right, works. Now over to the last thing. Now we're gonna create a drag interaction to create this carousel animation. And this is a lot of fun. So let's look at the prototype that we created or that I created before and see how it looks. Okay, so we have a couple of things going on here. So if you observe the background here as I scroll or drag, you see that the background moves as well. So that's one thing. Also, you can see that the height of the card changes. Those are the two things that happens here. Let's see if we can recreate that. First, let's duplicate the frame twice. Call it frame 9 and 10. And now, let's start with the second one here. So this is gonna go from Max to Mike. And Mike is gonna increase in size here, or in height, to 410, I think it is. Let's double check. Yes, 410. He's gonna go from 50% opacity to 100% opacity. And Max is gonna decrease in size, 370, and go to 50% opacity. And did we change the background? No, not yet. So let's move the background. So I target the mask, the image mask we have in the background, and I drag that like that. Looks good. And let's see if this works. Sorry, it won't work. Do you know why? Because I didn't add an interaction to it. So let me add an interaction. I'll just take, after delay, 1 millisecond. And since nothing happens here, it can just be 1 millisecond, 1 millisecond. Because this frame is just basically taking us to the carousel interaction. So nothing happens between these two frames. Once we're here, we want to be able to drag those cards, right? We want to be able to have this carousel animation. And when it comes to drag interactions and these kinds of animations, we're not gonna animate between the frames per se. We are, but we're not gonna use the frames as interaction triggers. Here, we want the actual carousel to be the interaction trigger. So I'll target that. I'll drag from the interaction handle onto the next frame, choose on drag, navigate to frame 9, Smart Animate, and now, once again, I'll take some inspiration from what is already done here. So I'll take that, so we have 1000 milliseconds and this kind of animation. I'll go back down here, take this, 1000 milliseconds and this kind of animation. Now we should be able to see how it works. Boom. Boom. It works. So let's use this same interaction when we drag from mic to 11. So let's first change up this frame. So this is gonna be 370. Once again, 50% opacity. We're gonna drag it to 11, which is gonna be 100% opacity and 410 in height. And this background image is also gonna change to 11. We'll add from the carousel here, an interaction over to frame 10, on drag, Smart Animate 1000. It's already set because we used it previously. Now we should be able to scroll one step further. Yes. Awesome. But we can't scroll back, which means that we need to add the interaction on the way back as well. So I'll take this frame, or this carousel, on drag, and the same animation. Take this carousel, on drag, on the way back to max, on drag, same animation. And it just works. But wait a second. Can you see that the background here just shifts like that? Okay, so I'm actually really happy that this happened because it exemplifies something that is so important when it comes to Smart Animate in Figma. So what had happened that resulted in that buggy visual with the animation is that the background image here in some of the frames, in frame number 9 and frame number 10, I think, was outside of the mask group. So this image here had ended up outside of the mask group. So now if we play this animation again, you can see that it just shifts to that image. But here it works. But here, it just shifts. That's because these are not inside of the same groups right now. They have the same name, but they're not layered the same in the side panel here. So if I move it back inside the group, you can see that it works again. So that's super important to keep in mind when it comes to Smart Animate in Figma. And that's a great way to wrap it up. Now, if you want to learn how to use Smart Animate to create interactive components, check out this video. I promise you it's worth it. If you want to support, liking, commenting, subscribing, all of these things help. Really appreciate it, guys. Until the next one, have a great life and we'll talk soon. Ciao.